I walked through the long hallway of my grandparents' old house. The floor made small creaks with every step I took. I didn't want to be here. I wanted to be back home with Mom and Dad. But now, they were not together anymore, and everything felt strange. Mom was living in one place and Dad in another. I didn't feel at home anywhere. Grandma and Grandpa were nice, but they didn't understand how I felt. They tried to cheer me up with snacks and games, but I just felt empty. I didn't want cookies or toys. I just wanted things to go back to how they were. One afternoon, I was feeling especially sad. Grandma and Grandpa were downstairs watching TV. I didn't feel like joining them, so I went upstairs. I wanted to be alone, to think and maybe to cry a little bit. The stairs creaked loudly as I climbed. When I reached the top, I noticed a small door I hadn't seen before. It was in the corner of the attic, half hidden behind an old, dusty curtain. I walked closer, curious. The door was small, almost like it was made for a child, and it had a rusty handle. I touched the handle and it was cold. I took a deep breath, then twisted it. The door opened with a soft creak. Inside was a small room. It was dark and a little dusty, with an old desk, a few chairs, and a shelf full of books and toys. Everything looked like it hadn't been touched in years. I stepped in and looked around. The air felt heavy, like it held secrets. On the desk there was an old notebook. It looked plain with a brown leather cover, but something about it drew me in. I picked it up and ran my fingers over the cover. It felt warm, almost like it was alive. I slowly opened it, curious to see what was inside. The first page was blank, but as I watched, words began to appear, slowly, like magic. I blinked, surprised. I hadn't touched a pen, yet the words were writing themselves. My heart beat faster, but I couldn't look away. The words on the page said, "Mom is sad and tired. She cries when no one is looking. She misses the way things were." I felt a lump in my throat. The words felt true, like they were coming from my mom herself. I turned the page, my hands shaking a little. On the next page, more words appeared. "Dad feels angry. He doesn't know why things went wrong. He feels lost, like he doesn't know who he is anymore." I sat down on the old wooden chair, staring at the words. They were about my parents. It was like the notebook knew their feelings. It felt strange, like I was peeking into their hearts, seeing things they never told me. I knew they were sad and upset, but now I understood just how deep their feelings were. I kept turning the pages, reading more and more. Each page showed new feelings, different moments. I could see my mom worrying late at night, unable to sleep. I saw my dad, sitting alone, looking tired and lost. It was like I was right there with them, feeling everything they felt. But as I kept reading, something strange happened. I started feeling very sad, much sadder than before. It was as if their feelings were slipping into me. I felt my chest tighten, and tears filled my eyes. I wasn't sure if these were my tears or their tears. It was like I was carrying their pain too. After a while, I put the notebook down, feeling exhausted. I didn't understand why, but I felt drained, like all my energy was gone. I tried to remember something happy, something nice about my family, to cheer myself up. I thought about my birthday last year. I remembered the big cake, the candles, and Mom and Dad smiling beside me. But the memory felt blurry, like it was slipping away. I rubbed my eyes, trying to hold on to it, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't remember the details. It was like the memory was fading, leaving me empty. I felt scared. How could I forget something so important? I left the secret room, my heart heavy with confusion. What was happening to me? Why did I feel like I was losing my memories? And why did I feel so sad? Like I was carrying my parents' sadness inside me. Back in my room, I lay down on the bed and stared at the ceiling, thinking about the notebook. It was strange and magical, but it was also heavy, too heavy for me to handle alone. But I didn't want to tell anyone, not even Grandpa or Grandma. This was my secret, and for now I wanted to keep it. But deep down I knew I would go back to that room, back to that notebook. Even though it made me sad, it also made me feel closer to my parents. I felt like I understood them better, like I could feel their pain. Maybe, just maybe, if I understood them enough, I could help them somehow. The next day, after breakfast, I found myself walking back up to the attic. The little door was waiting for me, silent and still. I opened it and stepped inside, feeling that same heavy air around me. I sat at the desk, picked up the notebook, and opened it once more. This time, the words were slower to appear. They formed slowly, like they wanted me to feel each word deeply. It said, "Mom feels alone. She misses the laughter. She misses being a family." The next few days felt different. I kept thinking about the notebook. I knew it made me sad, but I wanted to read it again. I wanted to know more about how my parents felt, like it would somehow help me feel closer to them. I thought maybe, if I understood their feelings, I would understand why everything had changed. One afternoon, I went back to the little room. It was quiet, and the light from the small window made the dust in the air look like tiny stars. I picked up the notebook, my hands feeling a little shaky. Part of me was afraid of what I might read, but I opened it anyway. The words began to appear slowly. They were about my mom. It said, "Mom feels worried. She feels like she is not enough. She wonders if she made a mistake." My heart hurt reading those words. I knew Mom was sad, but I never thought she might blame herself. I wished I could tell her that it wasn't her fault. Then I turned the page and it was about my dad. It said, "Dad feels angry and alone. He feels lost, like he is in the dark. He wants to find a way out, but he doesn't know how." As I read, I felt their feelings coming into me. I felt heavy, like I was carrying something too big for me. I felt my mom's worry, and I felt my dad's anger. It was like they were standing beside me, and I could feel everything they were feeling. I wanted to help them, but I didn't know how. After a while, I closed the notebook, feeling exhausted again. I tried to remember a happy memory to cheer myself up. I thought about the time we went to the zoo together. I remembered the smell of popcorn and the sound of the animals. But as I tried to picture it, the memory felt blurry. I couldn't remember if we went in the summer or winter, and I couldn't remember what animals we saw first. It was like the memory was slipping away from me, just like my birthday memory. I felt a wave of fear. Why was this happening? Why were my memories fading? The next day, I didn't go back to the room. I was too scared. I didn't want to lose any more memories. I missed those happy times, and I didn't want to lose them. But even though I stayed away, I couldn't stop thinking about the notebook. Felt like it was calling me, waiting for me. After 2 days, I couldn't help myself. I went back to the secret room. I sat at the desk, opened the notebook, and watched as the words slowly appeared. This time, it was about both my parents. It said, "Mom and Dad both feel sad. They miss each other, but they don't know how to talk anymore. They feel like they are too far apart." Reading those words made my chest feel tight. It was like I could feel their sadness deep inside me. I wanted to cry, but I held it in. I didn't want to cry. I wanted to be strong, but it was hard. Their sadness felt like it was becoming my sadness. I felt trapped between them just like they felt trapped. That night, I didn't sleep well. I kept thinking about my parents and how they felt. I wished I could do something to help them. Maybe if I read the notebook enough, I would understand them enough to help. Maybe if I understood all their feelings, I could make things better. That was what I told myself, but I wasn't sure if it was true. The next morning, Grandpa noticed that I looked tired. He asked if I was okay. I wanted to tell him everything about the secret room and the notebook, but I didn't know how to explain it. So I just said, "I feel a little sad." Grandpa looked at me with soft eyes and nodded. "It's okay to feel sad," he said. "It's a hard time for you, and for your parents too. But remember, their problems are not your fault. You are not responsible for their feelings." I wanted to believe him, but part of me felt like I was responsible. If I could just understand enough, maybe I could help. I nodded and thanked Grandpa, but I still felt unsure. His words were nice, but they didn't change the way I felt. Later that day, I went back to the notebook. I was careful this time. I decided I would only read one page. I opened the notebook, and the words slowly appeared. It said, "Mom remembers when you were a baby. She remembers singing to you at night. She misses those days when things felt simple. Reading those words made me feel warm, but also sad. I could almost picture my mom holding me as a baby, singing to me. I could feel her love. But then I noticed something strange. I tried to remember one of my own baby memories. Something small but happy, like my first teddy bear. But the memory was fuzzy. It was like I could feel my mom's love, but I couldn't remember my own early memories clearly anymore. I closed the notebook quickly, my heart pounding. I felt like I was losing pieces of myself each time I read it. I didn't want to lose my memories. They were all I had left of our happy times together. But I still wanted to understand my parents. I felt trapped, unsure of what to do. For the next few days, I stayed away from the notebook. I kept thinking about it, but I was scared to go back. I was scared of losing more memories. But at the same time, I missed the feeling of being close to my parents' hearts. I missed feeling like I understood them. One afternoon, I went for a walk in the garden with Grandma. The flowers were blooming, and the air smelled fresh. Grandma asked me how I was feeling, and I said, "I'm okay." But inside, I wasn't sure if I was really okay. I felt like I was holding too many feelings inside me, feelings that didn't belong to me. That night, I lay in bed, thinking about the notebook. I knew I couldn't keep going back to it. I knew it was hurting me, making me lose my memories. But I also felt like it was my only way to understand my parents. It was my only way to feel close to them. In the end, I decided I would go back one last time. Just once more. I needed to know more, just a little more. Then, maybe, I would have enough answers to understand everything. The next day, I went back to the secret room. I opened the door, feeling a mix of fear and sadness. I sat down at the desk, picked up the notebook, and opened it. I took a deep breath, ready to read, but also afraid of what I might lose. I opened the notebook slowly, feeling nervous. I knew this would be the last time I read it. I had made a promise to myself that I would stop, but I needed to read just one more time. I needed to feel close to my parents, even if it made me sad. The words started to appear slowly on the page, as if the notebook knew I was scared. Felt different this time, heavier somehow. The words were about my dad. Dad feels lonely. He misses laughing with you and Mom. He doesn't know how to be happy without the family together. I felt my heart ache. I remembered how my dad used to make silly jokes at the dinner table. He would always make us laugh even on bad days. But now I couldn't remember the last time he had made a joke. Felt like that part of him was gone. As I thought about this, I realized I was losing my own memories again. I tried to remember the last joke he told, but the memory was slipping away. I felt a wave of fear, but I tried to hold onto the memory. I closed my eyes, thinking hard, but the memory kept fading. All I could remember was a blurry image of my dad's smile. I felt tears in my eyes. I didn't want to lose these memories. They were all I had left of my family together. But I couldn't stop reading. I turned the page, feeling like I needed to know more, even though it hurt. This time, the words were about my mom. Mom feels empty. She feels like she lost a part of herself when the family broke apart. She wants to be happy, but she doesn't know how. Reading this made me feel sad in a deep way, like my own heart was breaking. I remembered how my mom used to be so full of energy. She would sing while cooking, dance around the living room, and laugh at small things. But now, she seemed quiet, almost like a shadow of herself. I missed the old mom, the one who felt full of life. I felt like I was carrying my parents' pain inside me. It was heavy, almost too heavy for me. I wanted to put the notebook down, but I felt stuck. I didn't want to stop reading because I wanted to understand them. I thought maybe, if I knew enough, I could help them somehow. But then, I felt a strange emptiness inside me. I tried to think of a happy time we spent together, something that could make me feel better. I thought about our last trip to the park, how we laughed and played, but even that memory felt far away. It was like the memory was fading, just like all the other happy memories. I couldn't remember the details, only a blurry picture of us together. The fear grew stronger inside me. I was losing all my memories, the good memories that made me feel happy and loved. I didn't know why this was happening, but I felt helpless. I wanted to hold on to these memories, but every time I read the notebook, they slipped away. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, feeling lost and empty. I wanted to talk to someone, but I didn't know who would understand. I didn't want to tell Grandma or Grandpa. They wouldn't believe me, and I didn't want to worry them. I felt alone with all these feelings, like I was carrying a heavy secret that no one could see. The next morning, I sat in the kitchen with Grandpa. He was reading the newspaper, and I was just staring at my cereal. I didn't feel like eating. I kept thinking about the notebook and the memories I was losing. I wondered if I would ever feel normal again, if I would ever be able to remember my family the way they used to be. Grandpa noticed that I looked sad. He put down his newspaper and looked at me with kind eyes. "Are you okay, Mia?" he asked softly. I looked down, feeling a lump in my throat. I wanted to tell him everything, but I didn't know where to start. "I feel sad, Grandpa," I said finally. He nodded, his face gentle. "It's okay to feel sad," he said. "This is a big change for you. Sometimes, sadness is too big to hold alone." I felt a small relief hearing him say that. It was like he understood a little bit of how I felt, even though he didn't know about the notebook. I took a deep breath and said, "I just want to understand. I want to know why things are different." Grandpa gave a small, sad smile. "Sometimes we don't get to know all the answers," he said. "Sometimes, we just have to let go and trust that things will get better, even if we don't understand everything right now." His words felt warm, like a hug. I nodded, but I still felt confused. How could I let go when I still had so many questions? How could I feel better when I kept losing the memories that made me happy? After breakfast, I went back to my room. I knew I needed to stop reading the notebook, but I felt torn. Part of me still wanted to know more, to understand my parents even better. But another part of me was scared. Scared of losing more memories. I sat on my bed, staring out the window, thinking about what Grandpa had said. Maybe he was right. Maybe I didn't need to understand everything. Maybe I just needed to focus on myself and the things I could still remember. That evening, I went back to the little room one last time. I opened the door and looked at the notebook, sitting there on the desk, waiting for me. I felt a mix of sadness and relief. I knew I couldn't keep reading it, but it was hard to let go. I picked up the notebook, took a deep breath, and placed it back on the desk. "Goodbye," I whispered softly, even though I wasn't sure who I was saying goodbye to. Maybe it was to the notebook, or maybe it was to the hope of understanding everything. I wasn't sure, but I felt a little lighter as I walked out of the room and closed the door. I knew I had to find a new way to feel close to my family, a way that didn't involve the notebook or the sadness it brought. I wanted to find my own happiness again, to remember the good times without losing myself in their pain. As I walked away from the room, I felt a small, quiet hope inside me. I didn't have all the answers, but maybe, just maybe, I could find my own way to feel okay. The next few days felt strange without the notebook. Every morning, I would think about it and feel a pull to go back, like something was calling me. But I reminded myself of my promise. I had said goodbye and I needed to let go. I couldn't lose any more memories. I had to keep what I still remembered. I tried to focus on other things. I spent time with Grandma and Grandpa, helping them in the garden or sitting with them while they watched TV. I even started helping Grandma with cooking. She showed me how to make her favorite soup, and I tried to remember each step, each smell, each taste. It felt good to focus on something simple, something that made me feel warm and calm. One afternoon, Grandpa asked if I wanted to go to the park. It was a sunny day, and I hadn't been to the park in a long time. I used to go there with my parents all the time. We would laugh, play games, and have picnics. I felt a little sad thinking about those times, but I also felt happy remembering them. I wanted to make a new memory, one that would make me feel light and happy again. We reached the park, and I could smell the fresh grass. Kids were running around, laughing and playing. I watched them, feeling a mix of joy and sadness. I missed my family being together, but I also knew I had to make the best of what I had now. Grandpa bought us ice cream, and we sat on a bench, watching the ducks swim in the pond. "I used to come here with Mom and Dad," I told him, staring at the water. We would have picnics and play catch. Grandpa nodded and gave me a gentle smile. You can still have those memories, he said softly. They are still a part of you. And you can also make new memories, ones that are just as special. I thought about his words. I hadn't thought of it that way before. I always felt like the past was the only thing that mattered, the only thing that connected me to my family. But maybe I could have both, the old memories and the new ones. Maybe I didn't have to choose between them. That evening I felt a little stronger. I decided I would try to keep making new memories, even if things felt different now. I wanted to remember my parents with love, but I also wanted to find my own happiness, just like Grandpa had said. The next morning, I woke up with a strange idea. I wanted to make something for my parents, something that would remind them of the good times. I thought about the old family photo albums we used to look through together. I remembered the laughter, the stories, and the love we shared while looking at those pictures. I decided I would make a small photo album, just for myself, to keep the good memories close. I went to Grandma and asked if she had any old photos of me with Mom and Dad. She smiled and took out a big box from the closet. It was filled with old photos, and as I looked through them, I felt a warmth inside me. There were photos of my first birthday, photos from family vacations, and photos of us just being silly at home. I picked out a few of my favorites, and Grandma helped me glue them into a small notebook. As I worked on the album, I felt happy, like I was holding on to something precious. Each photo was a memory, a piece of my family that I could keep forever. I didn't need the magical notebook anymore. I had my own memories, memories I could see and touch. When I finished the album, I looked at each picture, remembering the stories behind them. There was a photo of me and Dad at the beach, laughing as we built a sandcastle. I remembered the warm sand and the sound of the waves. There was a picture of me and Mom baking cookies, our faces covered in flour. I remembered the sweet smell and the sound of her laughter. These memories felt real, warm, and alive. That night, I put the photo album next to my bed. I felt a sense of peace, knowing that I could look at it whenever I wanted, whenever I missed my family. It was like I had a piece of them with me, something I could hold on to without feeling sad. A few days later, I went to see Mom. She was living in a small apartment now, and it felt strange at first to visit her there. But she had tried to make it feel like home. She had my favorite snacks, my favorite books, and even a little plant that she said was ours to take care of together. As we sat together on her couch, I told her about my new photo album. I showed her the pictures I had chosen, and her eyes filled with happy tears. She hugged me tightly and whispered, "These are such beautiful memories, Mia. Thank you for sharing them with me." In that moment, I felt like we were close again, like the space between us had grown smaller. I didn't need the magic notebook to feel connected to her. I had my memories, and I had her right there beside me. The next weekend, I went to see Dad. He was living in a different part of town now, in a little house with a big backyard. He showed me the garden he was starting, and we spent the afternoon planting flowers. As we worked, I told him about the photo album too, and he asked if he could see it sometime. I nodded, feeling happy that he wanted to see it. "We have so many good memories, don't we, Dad?" I said, looking at him. He smiled, a warm, real smile that I hadn't seen in a long time. "Yes, we do, Mia, and we can keep making more, even if things are different now." That evening, as I lay in bed back at Grandma and Grandpa's house, I felt a sense of calm. My family was still there, even if we weren't all together in the same way. I realized that families change, but love doesn't disappear. It just finds new ways to be close. I didn't need to understand everything about my parents' feelings or why things had changed. I only needed to remember the love we shared and keep making new memories. I knew now that I could carry both, the memories of the past and the hope for the future. As I drifted off to sleep, I felt a small smile on my face. I didn't feel empty anymore. I felt full, like I was carrying all the good things with me, all the love, all the joy, all the memories. And I knew that whatever happened next, I would be okay. The days started feeling lighter. I didn't think about the magical notebook as much. Instead, I focused on my new photo album and the happy memories I wanted to hold close. I still missed the old days when Mom, Dad, and I were together, but I felt stronger now. I knew I could still carry their love with me, even if we lived in different places. One morning, Grandma came into the kitchen with a smile on her face. "Mia," she said, "how would you like to visit your dad's new house today? He wants to show you something special in his garden." I was excited. Since I made the photo album, I felt closer to both Mom and Dad. I had spent a lot of time with Mom recently, but I hadn't seen Dad in a few days and I missed him. I wondered what surprise he had for me, so I nodded and grabbed my bag, feeling happy to spend the day with him. When we arrived, Dad was waiting outside. He waved and gave me a big hug. "I'm so glad you're here, Mia," he said. "I've been working on something in the backyard, and I can't wait for you to see it." I followed him to the backyard, curious. The garden looked different from last time. There were more flowers, and everything looked bright and colorful. But what caught my eye was a small area near the fence. Dad had set up a tiny bench and planted flowers all around it. There was also a little path made of small stones leading to the bench. "This is our spot," Dad said with a smile. "A place just for us to sit and talk or read together. Do you like it?" I loved it. I could tell Dad had worked hard to make it special. I imagined us sitting there, reading or talking about our days. It felt like a peaceful place, a little part of the garden just for the two of us. I smiled up at him and nodded. "It's perfect, Dad. Thank you." We sat on the bench together, watching the flowers and listening to the birds. The air felt warm and I felt calm. I realized that even though things were different now, there were still new ways for us to feel close. I didn't need us to be in one house to feel like a family. This garden spot felt like a part of home too. Later, Dad took me to the kitchen, where he had prepared a small picnic with sandwiches and fruit. We sat at the table, eating and laughing, sharing stories. I told him about helping Grandma in the garden and learning how to cook with her. He listened with a smile, asking me questions and making me laugh with his silly jokes. After lunch, I decided to show him the photo album I had made. I had been waiting for the right time, and this felt like the perfect moment. I took it out of my bag and placed it on the table in front of him. "What's this?" he asked, looking surprised. "It's my photo album," I said. "I made it with Grandma. It has all my favorite memories with you and Mom." Dad opened the album slowly, looking at each photo carefully. His face softened as he saw the pictures of us at the beach, playing games, and laughing together. I could see his eyes glistening, and he looked at me with a warm smile. "These are beautiful memories, Mia," he said quietly. "Thank you for sharing them with me. I'm so proud of you." His words filled my heart with warmth. I felt proud too, proud of the memories I had saved and the love I could still feel. I knew now that I didn't need to understand everything to keep feeling close to him. As the day ended, Dad walked me back to Grandma's house. We held hands as we walked, and I felt a sense of peace inside me. I knew that even though things had changed, we would always have our connection, our memories, and our love. When we arrived, Mom was there waiting to pick me up. She smiled when she saw me and asked about my day with Dad. I told her about the garden bench, the flowers, and the picnic. She listened carefully, her face glowing with happiness as she heard about my time with him. On the drive back to her apartment, I looked out the window, thinking about how much things had changed but also how much love was still there. I knew it would never be the same as before, but it didn't have to be. I could love Mom and Dad in new ways, and we could still share moments that felt like home. When we got back to her apartment, Mom showed me a small surprise she had prepared. She had set up a cozy reading corner in the living room, just for us. There was a soft blanket, a few pillows, and a little shelf with my favorite books. "I thought we could read together here in the evenings," she said, smiling. "It's our own little spot." I felt my heart swell with happiness. It reminded me of the bench in Dad's garden, a place just for us. I could feel that both my parents wanted me to feel safe, loved, and close to them, even if we didn't live together anymore. That night, we sat in the reading corner, and she read one of my favorite books to me. Her voice was soft and soothing, and I felt all the love she had for me. I knew that no matter what happened, I would always be connected to her and to Dad. We would always find ways to be close, even if life took us in different directions. As I got ready for bed, I thought about the magical notebook and how it had helped me understand my parents' feelings. But now I didn't need it anymore. I had found my own way to feel connected to them. I knew they loved me, and that love would always be there, no matter where we lived or what changed. I lay down and looked at the small photo album beside my bed. It was full of happy moments, and I felt grateful for every single one. I knew there would be more memories to come, more moments to add to my album. I felt ready for the future, ready to keep my family close in my heart. As I closed my eyes, I felt a sense of peace, a quiet happiness that filled me from within. I knew that I was loved, that my family was still my family, and that I could carry their love with me wherever I went. And in that moment, I felt complete. As the weeks went by, I felt a calmness growing inside me. The sadness from my parents' divorce was still there, but it wasn't as heavy as before. I had found new ways to feel close to both of them, and I was making new memories. I still missed the times when we were all together, but I was learning to let go of what I couldn't change. One sunny afternoon, Grandma asked if I wanted to help her in the garden. She had some new plants she wanted to add, and she thought it would be fun if we did it together. I liked spending time in the garden, felt peaceful, and I loved the smell of the flowers and the feel of the dirt in my hands. It was like I was adding new life to the world, just like I was adding new memories to my heart. As we worked, Grandma looked at me and smiled. "You seem happier these days, Mia," she said softly. "I can see the light in your eyes again." I paused, thinking about her words. She was right. I did feel happier. "I think I've learned a lot, Grandma," I said, feeling proud. "I know that even if things are different now, I can still have good memories with Mom and Dad. I don't need everything to be the same as before." Grandma gave me a warm hug, and I felt her love wrap around me like a soft blanket. "You're very wise, Mia," she said. "Life changes, but love doesn't have to go away. It just grows in different ways." Later that evening, after I finished helping in the garden, I sat down with my photo album. I looked through each picture, feeling grateful for all the memories. I could see my whole family story in those pages. The laughter, the adventures, and the love we shared. Each memory felt like a little piece of my heart. Then an idea came to me. I decided I would start a new section in my photo album. I would leave the first part for the old memories, but I would add new pages for the new memories I was making with Mom and Dad. It would be a way to keep both the past and the present close to me. The next day, I went to Mom's apartment. She had a surprise waiting for me. A photo from one of our recent reading nights in the cozy corner she had made. In the picture, we were both smiling, wrapped in the soft blanket with books in our hands. I laughed when I saw it, and Mom smiled, placing the picture in my hands. "I thought you might like to add this to your album," she said. "It's one of my favorite new memories with you." I felt my heart warm with happiness. I carefully put the photo in my bag, knowing it would go in the new part of my album. I was starting to see that there was so much love in my life, even if things were different now. Each moment with my mom and dad was special, and each one would find a place in my heart. A few days later, Dad called and asked if I wanted to come over to help him in his garden. He said he had planted some new flowers near our bench and wanted me to see them. I agreed happily, feeling excited to spend time with him again. When I arrived, he showed me the bright flowers he had planted, all around the bench we had made just for us. We sat down, looking at the colorful flowers and listening to the birds chirping nearby. As we sat there, I told him about my new idea for the photo album. "I'm keeping the old memories in the front," I explained, "but I'm also adding new memories at the end, so I can always remember the good times we have now." Dad smiled, looking proud. "That's a wonderful idea, Mia," he said. "It shows that you understand something very important. Life is about holding on to the past while making room for the future." We took a picture together on the bench with the flowers all around us. I could tell this moment was special, a new memory that I would treasure. Dad even said I could take home a flower from his garden to plant at Grandma's house, so I could always remember this day. That evening, back at Grandma and Grandpa's house, I carefully placed the new pictures in the album. The photo of me and Mom in the reading corner, and the picture of me and Dad on our garden bench. These pictures felt just as precious as the older ones, and I knew I would keep adding more as time went by. I showed Grandma the new part of my album, and she smiled, looking at each picture with me. "You have made such a beautiful collection, Mia," she said. "Each photo is like a little piece of love that you carry with you." As I lay in bed that night, I felt a deep peace. I knew that life would keep changing, and there would be times when I would feel sad or miss how things used to be. But I also knew that I had the strength to carry both the past and the present with me. I didn't need to hold on to the pain. I could just hold on to the love. Looking at my photo album, I realized I was ready for whatever came next. I had my memories, both old and new, and they would always remind me of the love I shared with Mom, Dad, Grandma, and Grandpa. I didn't need anything else to feel complete. I closed my eyes, feeling grateful for all the moments I had shared with my family. Each picture, each memory, was a reminder that love never really ends. It just grows in new ways. And I knew that no matter where life took me, I would always have that love inside me. As I drifted off to sleep, I knew that I was truly at peace. My family was still my family, and my heart was full. I had all the love I needed, and I was ready to keep adding new memories to my story, one beautiful moment at a time.